Frank had always thought of himself as a healthy man. At 72 years old, he still mowed his own lawn, fixed things around the house, and never missed a Sunday lunch with his grandchildren. He wasn't the type to complain about aches or pains. If something bothered him, he brushed it off with a smile and a joke. Just part of getting older, he thought. But over the past few months, small things began to pile up. He would wake up with headaches that seemed to come out of nowhere. Walking up the front steps left him breathing harder than usual. Some afternoons, the words on his newspaper looked blurry, forcing him to blink and squint. He chalked it all up to bad sleep, allergies, maybe needing new glasses. Never once did he think it could be something much more serious, something silently putting his life at risk every single day. It wasn't until a routine checkup that Frank's world changed. The nurse wrapped the blood pressure cuff around his arm, and her smile faded. She checked again, then called the doctor. Frank's blood pressure was dangerously high, and it had been for a long time without him knowing. The truth is, high blood pressure is a silent killer. It doesn't always cause obvious symptoms. It creeps up quietly, damaging your heart, your kidneys, your brain, without dramatic warnings, until one day, it strikes with devastating consequences. Today, I need to walk you through the 5 silent signs that Frank missed, signs that you must never ignore. Because recognizing them early can mean the difference between protecting your life or risking everything you've built and everyone you love. Stay with me until the end, because the very first sign Frank experienced was something so common, so easy to brush off, that millions of people miss it every year. And by the time you notice it clearly, serious damage may have already begun. The first silent warning Frank's body tried to give him came in the form of frequent headaches. At first, they were easy to dismiss. A little tightness across the forehead when he woke up. A dull, nagging throb behind his eyes in the afternoon. Frank told himself it was normal. Maybe he wasn't drinking enough water. Maybe he slept wrong. Maybe it was just part of getting older. After all, he had lived through much worse. A small headache was no reason to slow down. But what Frank didn't realize is that headaches, especially frequent or persistent ones, can be one of the earliest and most overlooked signs of dangerously high blood pressure. When blood pressure rises, it increases the pressure inside the skull. The brain, sensitive and carefully protected, reacts to this internal strain by sending out pain signals, headaches that often feel like a tightening band around the head, or a persistent dull ache that lingers no matter what you do. Frank remembered one morning in particular. He had promised to fix the loose step on the porch. He woke up, already feeling a throbbing behind his temples, but he pushed through, grabbing his toolbox and heading outside. By the time he finished hammering in the last nail, he was sweating, dizzy, and his head pounded so hard he had to sit down before he passed out. Even then, Frank didn't think it was his blood pressure. He blamed the heat, the stress, anything but the truth. His doctor later explained that ignoring these headaches was dangerous, because when blood pressure remains high over time, the risk of a stroke, aneurysm, or even permanent brain damage increases dramatically. The problem is, the body adapts. You get used to feeling a little off. You start thinking it's normal to wake up with a headache, normal to feel foggy or tired. But it's not normal. It's your body's quiet cry for help. Frank realized that if he had listened earlier, if he had recognized that his headaches were a symptom, not just an inconvenience, he might have caught the danger before it grew so severe. If you notice headaches happening more often, especially in the morning or when you exert yourself, don't brush them off. Your body is trying to protect you, but only if you are willing to hear what it's saying. And the next silent sign Frank faced wasn't in his head at all, but in something even more frightening, the breath that once came so easily now becoming a daily struggle. The second silent sign that Frank's body was struggling came when he started experiencing shortness of breath during light activities, simple things that had never winded him before. Frank had always enjoyed his afternoon walks around the neighborhood. It was part of his daily routine, stretching his legs, tipping his hat to neighbors, enjoying the fresh air. But slowly, without warning, those walks began to feel different. He found himself needing to stop and catch his breath after just a few blocks. Going up a small hill felt like climbing a mountain. Even carrying groceries from the car to the kitchen left him standing at the counter, hand on his chest, breathing heavily. Frank brushed it off again. "I'm just out of shape," he thought. "Maybe I've been spending too much time indoors lately." But the truth was far more serious. When blood pressure is too high, it puts extra strain not just on the heart, but also on the arteries carrying blood throughout the body. Over time, the heart has to work harder and harder to pump blood against this resistance. This means less oxygen is delivered to the muscles during even light activities, making breathing more difficult. Frank's heart was literally fighting to do its job, struggling against pressure it couldn't control, while he continued to push through, unaware of the silent battle inside him. One afternoon, after helping his grandson fly a kite at the park, Frank had to sit down on a bench, gasping for air. His chest felt tight, and he couldn't shake the feeling of dizziness that followed. For the first time, fear crept in. His doctor later explained that unexplained shortness of breath during mild exertion is a red flag, a warning that the heart might be under serious strain due to high blood pressure or other hidden cardiac issues. Frank realized how close he had come to something far worse. A heart attack, a stroke, an emergency that could have taken him away from the people he loved most. If you find yourself losing your breath during activities that once felt easy, walking to the mailbox, climbing a few stairs, playing with your grandchildren, don't ignore it. It's not just age. It's not just being tired. It could be your heart struggling silently, begging for relief. And the next silent sign Frank faced showed up where he least expected it, in the very way he saw the world around him. The third silent sign that Frank's blood pressure was spiraling out of control came through his eyes, a slow, unsettling change he didn't immediately understand. Frank had always had good vision. Sure, he needed reading glasses for the fine print, but otherwise, he prided himself on spotting a squirrel darting across the yard or reading road signs from a distance. So when things began to look blurry, he assumed it was just age catching up with him. Sometimes, while reading the morning paper, the words seemed to swim. Other times, faces at the grocery store appeared fuzzy, forcing him to squint and rub his eyes. There were even brief moments when his vision doubled, as if the world had shifted and split in front of him. He blamed it on tiredness, maybe a little too much time staring at the television. He promised himself he would schedule an eye exam, eventually. What Frank didn't realize was that his high blood pressure was damaging the tiny, delicate blood vessels in his eyes. It's a condition called hypertensive retinopathy, when elevated pressure causes the vessels to thicken, narrow, or even rupture, disrupting the blood supply to the retina, the part of the eye responsible for sharp, clear vision. Frank's doctor explained that when blood pressure remains uncontrolled, these vessels weaken over time, leading to blurry vision, double vision, and, if left untreated, even permanent loss of sight. Frank remembered one morning vividly. He was fixing a light bulb on the porch when he looked down and realized he couldn't see the steps clearly. The edges were blurred, and for a terrifying second, he felt disoriented, unsure where to step safely. That near fall shook him more than anything else had. It was no longer just about feeling a little off. It was about real danger, real consequences. He learned that vision changes, especially sudden or unexplained ones, are never something to ignore. They could be the eye's desperate attempt to show what the body can't feel, the rising pressure inside, the silent damage growing stronger with each passing day. If you notice blurry vision, double vision, or frequent difficulty focusing, don't wait for it to get worse. Your eyes might be revealing what your heart and vessels are suffering in silence. And for Frank, the next silent warning wasn't just something he could see, it was something he felt deep inside, in a way that clouded his strength and his very sense of who he was. The fourth silent sign that Frank's body was struggling came through something harder to measure, but impossible to ignore: unusual fatigue and moments of confusion. Frank had always been sharp. He was the man everyone turned to when something needed fixing, when a date needed remembering, when a story from the past needed retelling. His mind was steady, clear, dependable, just like the hands that built cribs, tree houses, and countless Christmas mornings over the years. But slowly, he began to notice a change. Tasks that once energized him now left him drained. Mowing the lawn felt like running a marathon. Reading a few chapters of a novel left him tired enough to need a nap. Even conversations sometimes felt heavier, finding the right word, remembering small details, focusing fully on what someone was saying. Frank chalked it up to aging, maybe to being a little busier than usual. But deep down, he felt it. Something wasn't right. His doctor later explained that when blood pressure is too high, it reduces the efficient flow of oxygen-rich blood to vital organs, including the brain. This lack of proper circulation can cause profound fatigue, a deep tiredness that sleep doesn't fix, and subtle cognitive problems like trouble concentrating, forgetfulness, or mental fog. Frank remembered the moment that scared him the most. He had driven to the grocery store, parked, and then sat in the car, staring at the entrance, trying to remember what he needed. The list, the purpose, the simple plan he had made just minutes earlier at home seemed to vanish into thin air. It wasn't just forgetfulness. It was a sense of disconnection, like watching his own life through frosted glass. That was the moment Frank realized he couldn't ignore the signs any longer. If you find yourself feeling unusually exhausted after light activity, or if you notice moments where focus and clarity seem harder to reach, listen closely. It's not just tiredness. It could be your brain and body begging for better blood flow, begging for relief from pressure it can no longer bear. Frank learned that honoring those whispers early could help protect everything he cherished: his independence, his memories, his ability to live fully. And the final warning Frank faced was perhaps the most urgent of all, a signal from deep inside his chest that he almost missed, but that demanded immediate attention. The fifth silent sign that Frank's life was in danger came from the place he trusted the most, his own heart. Frank had always thought heart problems would be obvious. He pictured sharp, crushing chest pain like the movies showed. But what he experienced was much quieter and almost easier to ignore. It started with small sensations. A fluttering in his chest when he bent down to tie his shoes. A sudden thump when he stood up too quickly. An odd tightness that came and went while he was reading or watching television, barely enough to make him stop what he was doing. Frank told himself it was nothing. Just excitement, indigestion, maybe too much coffee. Anything but something serious. But behind those small symptoms was a much bigger danger. High blood pressure was putting relentless strain on Frank's heart, forcing it to work harder with every beat. Over time, that strain can cause the heart muscle to thicken, stiffen, and beat irregularly, making chest pain and arrhythmias, irregular heart rhythms, not just possible, but likely. Frank's doctor explained that these irregular beats, even when they feel minor, can lead to heart failure, blood clots, or sudden cardiac events if left unchecked. Frank remembered one night when he woke up with a strange heaviness in his chest. It wasn't severe, but it was enough to make him sit up, breathe deeply, and wonder, for the first time in a long while, if something was truly wrong inside him. That night, fear finally outweighed pride. He went to the doctor the next morning, and tests revealed the full story, not just high blood pressure, but early signs of heart strain that could have led to a serious, life-threatening event if ignored any longer. Frank realized then that chest sensations, no matter how small, are not something to brush off. Neither are skipped beats, fluttering feelings, or tightness that seems minor. The heart whispers first, and if we don't listen, it screams later. If you notice unusual sensations in your chest or irregular heartbeats, especially when paired with the other signs we discussed, take them seriously. Your heart is sending out warnings, subtle but urgent, asking for help before it's too late. And Frank's final lesson, the one he hopes you will take to heart, is not about fear. It's about hope, strength, and taking action while you still have the chance to protect everything and everyone you love. If you're still here with me, it tells me something important. You care about your health, your future, and the life you still have ahead. And that choice, to stay informed and alert, is the first and most powerful step toward protecting everything you've built. Frank's story could have ended differently. If he had continued brushing off the headaches, the shortness of breath, the blurry vision, the deep fatigue, the strange heartbeats, his life might have taken a tragic turn. But he chose to listen. He chose to act. And because of that choice, Frank is still here today, stronger, wiser, and more grateful for every single moment he gets to share with his family. The truth is, high blood pressure doesn't always shout. It whispers. It sends tiny warnings through your body, hoping you'll notice before real damage is done. And the earlier you act, the more you can protect your heart, your brain, your kidneys, your independence, your precious time with those you love. So please, if anything we talked about today felt familiar, if even one sign resonated with your experience, don't wait. Talk to your doctor. Get your blood pressure checked regularly. Make the small changes that add up to a lifetime of strength. You deserve a future full of energy, joy, and peace of mind. And if you found value here today, if Frank's journey made you think twice about your own health, I invite you to stay connected with us. Subscribe to our channel. Like this video. Leave a comment sharing your thoughts or encouraging someone else who might need a reminder that they are not alone. Because here, we believe in facing the truth with courage. We believe in growing wiser, not weaker, with time. And we believe that the best years of your life are still ahead if you choose to protect them today. Thank you for being here with me. Thank you for choosing to care. Until next time, stay strong, stay wise, and always listen to the quiet whispers of your amazing, resilient body.